God's milk is very good for your rheumatism, he told grandmother. The hope of milk made grandmother accept the new pet, even though it would be some time before the God could give us any. Okay, so here rheumatism means a painful condition of the joints or muscles. means ये disease होती है जो joints और muscles दुखते हैं ना उसकी. Okay. So we read before that grandmother said no to the idea of keeping the goat with them. So grandfather in his support, in a boy's support, speak that and tell the grandmother that goat's milk is good for her joints and muscles. जो उसके वहाँ पे बीमारी वगैरह थी उसके लिए वो अच्छे हैं. And grandmother was then convinced that because of this reason and was ready to accept the goat that they should keep the goat in the house only and in the hope of the milk that, but there was some time for that as she was so small, that goat is so small, so there was time for her to give the milk. The goat was named Tinkerbell after the fairy in the story of Peter Pan. She was a lot like the fairy. She skipped and pranced, and her feet seemed as if they were fixed with springs when she leapt about on the grass. I tied a little bell to her neck. I always knew by its tinkling where she was likely to be found. Okay, so here pranced means walked with high bouncy step. So they must be fond of Peter Pan's story. Peter Pan is a writer, okay. So they must be a fan of Peter Pan's story. So they named the god Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is a fairy in his stories. So he named after her only, and she might be seems like a fairy only. So the god is a mischief one. She always skips, jumps and bounces. मतलब वो grass पे उछलती फिरती रहती थी. And it looks like there was spring in her legs when she was on the grass. उसके पैर में spring ऐसा लगता था जब वो grass पे. The boy also tied a little bell in her neck so that with the sound she was able to find the god. Okay, so means God कहाँ पे भी जा रही है वो उसको वहाँ पे find कर सके. Gods grow fast, and unlike Peter Pan and the fairies, Tinkerbell had to grow up. To begin with, Tinkerbell developed a little pair of horns. Her appetite began to increase too. The leaves of Nasturtium and sweet-pea and geranium were her favorites. One morning, grandmother found all her sweet peas destroyed. Here, appetite means a strong desire for food. Nasturtium, sweet pea and geranium are different kinds of flowering plants. So as the days pass, Tinkerbell grew up and now she has two little horns also at his head. मतलब उसके सर पे दो horns भी अब आ चुके थे और वो बड़ी हो चुकी थी. And she has now wants to eat more than before, and leaves of different flower plants are her favorite, like nasturtium, sweet pea and geranium. These are the favorite food for her. Okay, and one day the grandmother found that when she looked at her sweet peas that are destroyed by the Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell destroyed the sweet peas, leaves and flowers. I think a cow got into the garden at night, I said quickly. Grandma did not say anything, but the look in her eyes told me that she knew who had done the deed. The next day the gardener came to grandmother to say that he had been bending over the sweet pea bed, putting it right again when Tinkerbell had come up and quietly and butted him from behind. He refused to work in the garden until the Tinkerbell was tied up. Here, did means act. Putting it right again means improving or putting it back to what it used to be like. And butted him means hit him with her head or horns. As grandmother was looking angrily, boy immediately said that the sweet peas was destroyed by a cow at night. कोई cow जो रात में आई होगी उसने destroy कर दिए होंगे. But grandmother knew that who did that. That Tinkerbell only ruined the sweet pea. Tinkerbell ने वो सारी चीजें करी हैं. She knew Tinkerbell had done this. After that, when gardener came with the complaint that Tinkerbell hated him when he was putting sweet peas back to what it was used to be like, जब gardener वापस sweet peas को सही कर रहा था, Tinkerbell hated him, and also that he would not work until they tied the Tinkerbell. और वापस काम नहीं करेगा जब तक Tinkerbell को बांध देते. So they tied the Tinkerbell. उन्होंने वो Tinkerbell को बांध दिया. And by the way, said grandmother, after we had calmed her down, when are we going to have that milk we were promised? Grandfather stroked his chin and tried to look innocent. Okay, so and after that grandmother was very angry, so they just calmed her down, उन्होंने उसे शांत किया. And then grandmother asked them that when we are going to have the milk of the god, के वो god से milk जब वो कब आने वाला जो उन्होंने promise किया था, that will cure his joint problem. So grandfather just to stop his chin, मतलब उन्होंने सिर्फ अपना chin हिलाया और just try to look innocent के मुझे नहीं पता when how can I know कि उन्हें कैसे पता चलेगा.